Here is information from 30 respondents for our smoke-free campus questionnaire. This does not include all questions on the questionnaire, but a sample of questions. This is information that you could get automatically through Microsoft Forms because an electronic questionnaire is used. However, even though you don't have to enter the data yourself, knowing how to code data can still be a very useful skill to have. For example, these 3 questions all ask respondents to rank their level of agreement from strongly agree all the way down to strongly disagree. This is a Likert scale, and Likert scales are often treated as interval level data. That means people will actually find an average of the numbers to figure out kind of an average response or what most people said. Obviously, if you get a higher number, it can tell you which end of the scale was more common for agree or disagree. In order to actually assign a number, you would need to make some kind of coding key, where we would assign values to the responses. For example, strongly agree might be a 1, agree would be a 2, let's say neutral is a 3, disagree would be a 4, and strongly disagree would be a 5. We would then have to transform all of these responses to 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. Obviously, it would take quite a bit of time to transform the numbers, just typing them in by hand for all of these responses. So a better way, coded agreement with smoke-free policy, is to make a new column that you can have the number stored in that says every time you see strongly agree, Excel should display a 1. Every time you see neutral, Excel should display a 3, etc. You can use a formula for this, and it is a formula that you had to learn in your Excel class. You might not have known exactly where to use it in Excel because you were mostly learning the formula and not the application. But this is a really, really good place for you to use the VLOOKUP formula. For VLOOKUP, first you'd start with the value you want to look up. In this case, strongly agree. We want to see what number does strongly agree correspond to. And that's where our coding key comes in. We look up strongly agree in this table. So for the table array, we would select this whole table. In column index number, that says what column in the table should it be returning. Basically, we want to say look in the first column of the table and return the number that's found in the second column. So because we want to return the number in the second column that was selected, that's why I use a 2. And in range lookup, that will tell you if you want an exact match or an approximate match. We put false because we want an exact match. You have to exactly match strongly agree with strongly agree. Also, an important note is you need to lock the table using absolute cell references so that you're always referencing this table even if you fill in the formula. Press enter, and then I'll fill this in, and we'll get numbers that correspond to the response for every single person. For 30 people, it might not seem like using a VLOOKUP formula saves you a lot of time, but imagine if you had 1,000 or 10,000 people. You can't go through the whole list assigning numbers to every single word there. But VLOOKUP does it for you. Once you've done the first entry, you just fill in the rest of the responses, and then you're capable of doing math. You can't find an average of words like agree, strongly disagree, and disagree, but you can find an average number of responses. So because it's a 2.2, that lets me know that more people are on the agreement side of neutral than the disagreement side of neutral. And that's why it can be very helpful to transform to a number. This is just one example of coding. Try it yourself for the other 2 variables, for these levels of agreement and these level of agreements. You'll see the final solution in the solution Excel document for this lesson.